by other matches that are happening. You got to be able to block that out.
Yes, you do. Because let's be honest, it's going to get pretty noisy up there as we get deeper through these groups. I mean, these opening rounds may be a little bit more tame, but you expect that when the qualifiers start to happen for these groups, you're going to start to hear some shouting coming through, and you need to be able to control that energy and not get out of hand.
Well, pretty difficult to do shouting when you hear both English squads coming out right now, which is actually what we're going to hop to in game right now. I believe it's Luminosity from North America up against Nova in Europe. So that's going to be one where teams are popping up. They're popping up in English, but these two squads going head to head.
Yeah, I think that it's one of those things that we were going to be talking about extensively when it comes down to Luminosity and anybody else really coming out from Europe. Both of these two teams really trying to put themselves on the map and make their region feel very respected.
Yeah, as you can see there on the bottom, if you wanted to follow along in this matchup, this will be on the Bravo stream once we get our Tribe and Q9 matchup set up. But it's a 3-0 lead so far, specifically on this map, and a 1-0 series lead right now for the North American kit.
And this is great news for Luminosity, who are also dealing with a little bit of a last-second roster addition of Jesus Saves, who has been one of the, I would say, most fun watch in the North American region. So to see him kind of joining the squad, finding early success, great news.
Jesus Saves having the highest KDA in North America from stage 4. And then obviously filling in pretty well here for Luminosity, as they are looking pretty good here against Nova. Another one of those squads with great mobile, mobile esports pedigree, and trying to live up to that. But we're seeing the different strengths from the different regions play out early on. Obviously, India not where they wanted to be. North America surprising others. And then Europe. Europe's one of those in the middle where we weren't sure what to expect. Strut still taking Omega a little bit there. Nova struggling right now against Luminosity, and then Strut, finishing in that, surprise win earlier on. Where do we think Europe's going to finish up?
It's funny that you do mention that, because it's one of those things that we all ended up talking about, that when you think about the strongest regions out there, Europe is not one of them. So Europe coming into an international event, and you have been able to have at least a comfortable stage 4 against your own region, I honestly think that Europe are going to be able to stand up quite well. I mean, even against like the Chinese teams that we were just seeing, even in those earlier rounds, they didn't look half bad.
Yeah, the worry was that they would get kind of blown away in a game like that. But that's not what happened.
Not at all. I think that's great news that you come out, you're fighting. Problem is, there's not much of a lifeline out here. So as much as we could sit there and, blow some sunshine towards their direction, you still have to get through these well-rehearsed international squads. And even though the map 1 win like from Strut, surprise, we didn't really expect them to do too much when it came to playing up against those powerhouses.
Right.
That's cool, great, but in the end, you still have to be able to finish out these series and actually do something to tell us that, yes, Europe is a major contender at this tournament.
So speaking of surprises, right, just like Strut was able to pull one out there, I think the other one that we're all waiting to see, which is coming up very, very soon, is Scars from Japan.
Yeah.
Where will Japan sit in this region as well, or in this regional conversation as well? Because for every other team, you get to say, okay, we have regional strength and individual strength. Scars being the only team from Japan, you got to figure out where you sit in all of that, and they got a fruitful draw not to go up against Tribe or Q9. They go up against Influence Kevin to start things off.
But you still have that looming in the distance, right? You know you're probably going to have to face either Tribe or Q9 maybe once, if not twice, throughout the entirety of just the group stage alone. And not to mention the pressure, coming back to land and representing your entire region as the only team. I mean, they got to show up and absolutely slay out.
The biggest thing is it a big fish in a small pond? Like, it's cool, I think, to have, the whole country's behind you.
Right.
But we didn't really see much competition in Japan. I mean, Scars was flawless. No one really even touched them. I mean, the whole broadcast was over in 2 hours, it felt like. It was over as soon as it started. And that has to be something that we really evaluate for this Scars team is, are they really, really solid? And is that region just kind of a little lopsided? Or is this just one big fish that kind of has, its own thing going for it in its own region?
Right, and that's part of the difficulty. If you drop down to the elimination bracket, it's do or die time, and you have to tell yourself, you have to be forgiving to yourself. Be like, all right, we just played up against the best team in the world. That's what we got to tell ourselves. And now we're going to bounce back right here, especially because we found regional success. And we know that we're a great team from all of the tests that we've had. How can we test outside of what we know? And so hopefully Scars will be able to do that, or influence Kevin, whoever comes out on the bottom side.
Yeah, and it's that phrase, you're living rent-free in my head right now, brother, is you have to come in and play your own game. You know, what was your strengths coming out from your region as a whole? We talked about that with Godlike when Alan and I were casting.
Yeah.
It was the search and destroy, and they did look very good on that. Obviously, respawns were not necessarily there. But for Scars, you have to just be able to come in and just lean on the strengths, lean on your vetoes, and whatever is comfortable for you to be able to take as many maps as possible.
Well, what happens when you start losing, too? Like,
Right.
you don't expect them to win every map here. You're going to be
course.
playing up against some good teams. So if you do find yourself behind, how do you play recovery after that?
Yeah, well, they'll have to figure that one out when they find themselves behind. Right now, falling a little bit behind with all 4 games getting set up. So we're going to take a short 5-minute break. When we come back, we'll hop into groups C and D for the Call of Duty Mobile World Championship. Don't go anywhere.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Call of Duty Mobile World Championships. I'm joined by the one and only Beef Mommy, and we are heading into what I would say is the most highly anticipated match of the day. The Kings of the West, Tribe Gaming, going up against Q9, who has been very dominant recently. Beef Mommy, how you feeling?
Man, we just saw the most anticipated group of the day, which is Group A, and now we're heading off into what is the question mark. Who is going to win between the Reds today, Q9 or Tribe? But obviously there's going to be a lot more matches up next, so I'm really excited. If you guys just came into the stream right now, we already saw a bunch of 3-0s at exception of one, which is a Charlie stream, Strut versus another team that was really good, actually. I'm really surprised with Wolves. Yes, they lost that hard point, but again, all 3-0s across the board. But now let's see if it's going to be the same thing here. Q9 and Tribe, what are your thoughts?
I mean, both regions off the start, what we've seen from them look very strong. We saw NYSL from that North American region, third seed, still got the 3-0. Wolves, a little bit of a slow start, but they bounced back, and even in their second hardpoint matchup, they were still able to get the win pretty easily. So heading into this one, I think it's going to be a battle of the modes. I think it's all going to come down to control. That's my expectation, because we've talked about that being the swing mode for basically the entirety of the event. And I think with how dominant Tribe is in hardpoint, how dominant Q9 is in Search and Destroy, I'm really hoping we get a Game 5 out of it.
You are absolutely right. Control will definitely be that swing mode. We already know that Tribe very good at the hardpoint games, and for Q9, Search and Destroy is definitely their favorite. But for me, firing range being the map choice, I feel like that's going to be really interesting for Tribe to actually go and win. But I'm really hoping that they did have a really good run, because they did go up against Luminosity, won that 7-4. So that was the last time they actually played in firing range S&D. But for the side of Q9, well, they feel like they need to kind of step it up in this particular matchup, because they haven't really played it too much. The last time they did, it was up against the Wolves, which they did win.
Yeah, this is a bunch of really interesting map picks, because I know that not a lot of players love Raid Hardpoint. I know that North America doesn't like Hacienda, and we're playing that for Control as well. But I think Tribe taking a little bit of an advantage for themselves. We got a Slum, Search, and Destroy. I think if it does go to a Game 5, that tends to be the one map where teams that are not as Search and Destroy dominant can seem to find the edge. So I think heading into this one, obviously got to give the edge to Tribe. Their number one go-to game mode has always been Hardpoint. Their gun skill, their teamwork, just phenomenal across the board. And it looks like we are ready to hop into the action.
Let's see how we're going to do it. Q9, Island, D-Chen, Oling, Tang, Dam. And for Tribe, we have Jez, Bolu, Tectonic, Vegan, Marshy. Let's see who's going to start things up. Jez getting that beautiful kill. Let's see if he can finally get one more. Oling's going to be in a little bit of a pickle up here in top laundry. Going to be proning just a tiny bit, slowing things down, but Tribe still has a solid hold here in P1.
And we saw the Tribe and Q9 guys talking yesterday about whether they were just going to agree to GA the SKS. Does look like they have done exactly that. So lots of Krigs in play for Q9. A little bit of a slow start, but the kills starting to come through. They're able to find the break right here, and some solid map control up by top laundry for Uling. He's able to find 4 early kills, and I've heard a lot of players from a lot of different regions talk about his dominance and how difficult he is to kill. We'll see what type of impact he has for Q9 today.
Oling already having 4 to his name. The next person up to him is actually going to be Jez having that 5. So I feel like it's going to be them, the MVPs for sure. Oling being one of the best China teams, China players here. And now as we slow things down yet again, they're going to be trying to go in for that anchor point, where player number 1 is Jez trying to anchor that point. Up against Oling, speaking up, but Oling wins that gunfight.
That's an absolutely massive gunfight. get the rest of those 20 seconds. Everybody on Q9, very